Greetings, Wilkinson here. Today my guest is Brett Klein. Where do you live?
Here in Palm Springs.
You're in Palm Springs, okay. Yeah. And we're trying to, we always chat before we record, and I was trying to figure out where we met, but I guess we met online talking about my photography quite a while ago.
Yes.
I wanted him to be in one of my daddy projects or something.
It was actually a daddy project. It might have even been jock straps, I'm not sure, but there was something.
Yeah, we'll figure that out one of these days.
Or just
recreate it. Thank you for coming in.
Yeah, my pleasure.
So first, say hi to my people.
Hi. Hello, Wilkinson Fan Club.
Not really. Where do we start? Let's see, you're gay.
Yes, absolutely.
What a giveaway. It's the all pink outfit you got.
Not really. Maybe the pink outfit and they'll take a photo of.
Yeah, he doesn't have a pink outfit.
I do have fans that still wonder, but I'm like, really?
Really? What? Tell a little story. Where'd you grow up?
Yeah.
How'd you figure out your day? I'll let it rip and I'll ask questions.
Oh, yeah. I grew up in Eugene, Oregon. Very much a farm boy. Grew up on a farm with family and grandparents and working the farm. A lot of very jock-oriented cousins and things that were like brothers that were the good and not so much there's no bad. It's just the coming out of realizing puberty and all these things. And I should have known way before that I was interested in men. But
did you have siblings?
I have a sibling. I have an older brother who's adopted, but who's battling 1,000 different things of his own mental health and other stuff. So there was never a close tie.
Yeah, so we're closer to your cousins.
Yeah, my cousins are and I lived with them. My mother was ill most of her life with different things that came from TB and then drugs. Like we all started, like with HIV or anything else, they put you on a drug that's new to market and they hope that it's going to do something. And it wiped out all her white blood cells. And so the rest of her life, she was under something. 32 different surgeries and things. Yeah, so my childhood was spending a lot of time in hospitals, a lot of time in that, and I lived with cousins and relatives on and off for different times, just nature. So they're like brothers and sisters. They're cousins, but they're literally brothers and sisters.
Are you close now?
Yeah, very cool. Yeah, still
Are
very
they still
close.
Up there in Eugene?
Yeah, still up there in Eugene, and now their kids and their grandkids, and they all adore me, and I adore them, and they all know my story. I'm sorry?
Are you the gunkle?
I am a gunkle. We don't really talk about it, but they all individually talk about it. They all absolutely know. And there's other members of the family that may, you never know, be on the spectrum of whatever. It's a whole different world now.
Oh, when did you figure out that you were gay?
Oh, I officially, in my late 20s, early 30s, but I didn't come out until I was 32. And that was...
So growing up, were you attracted to guys, though?
I was attracted to my cousins, different things that were very sports-related and masculine, that kind of look and feel. And I didn't feel that I was holding up on that necessarily. I wasn't very sports, or I didn't come into my athleticism and those kind of things until I was older and more college.
All right.
Yeah.
So what was your actual coming out story?
Yeah, so the coming out story it's good and bad. It's like the coming out story is Sarah converted and tested positive for HIV in Memorial Weekend of May of 93. And I had been smart enough because I'd been playing around very orally and different things after a bar and different stuff. And you meet someone and you play around a little bit and not real sex. But things. And then I exposed myself. As I mentioned, I hadn't really realized that I was also very athletic and playing in the Manhattan Beach and in LA, playing volleyball on the beach 3 to 4 days indoors, 3 to 4 nights a week, coaching volleyball, doing all this stuff. So I was beating my body up. And so I was taking, a word to the advise is taking ibuprofen for pain. And I was taking like 1,500 milligrams daily.
How many is in a typical pill? I don't know.
Oh, like 250. Yeah, I was like 4 to 6 of these a day and not even thinking about it because they just, would alleviate the pain.
Right.
But it also was a massive blood thinner. And then unbeknownst to me, you go off and play with someone a little bit and have oral sex or do something. And you don't even have to have all the full on intercourse. And I had open wounds, if you will. My mouth was just bleeding gums, and you didn't realize.
Blood thinner.
Yeah, blood thinners. You're on blood thinners. And for the longest time in therapy and other stuff, and the LA Gay and Lesbian Centers where I, got tested, my friends at the beach, I moved into from straight, but also a gay volleyball team group that I knew, and they knew my story, and they said, "Oh my God, you need to, Monday, we are taking you to the center." we are getting you help. You're not, because the issue is I was seeing a doctor and I was seeing primary care, and I would go and every 6 months and I'd get back then a HIV test or something, the anonymous thing and whatever. And I hadn't heard from him in 6-7 weeks on results. And I called the office on the Friday of Memorial Day, and the receptionist's like, "Oh, hold please." It's a running joke. And then she comes back, not the doctor. She comes back and says, "Oh, the doctor says you tested positive. He can't see you anymore. Here's a referral number for an infectious disease person. Good luck. Have a good weekend."
No way.
Yeah, that was the wake-up call at 3 p.m. on Memorial Weekend, the Friday of. It was just so crazy and funny that it was also scarring, because then I'm going away for the weekend with friends, and you're just like, how do you even embrace this?
That's a lot.
And then you don't have that. And my friends, once I went through this other process, infectious disease, it was someone back then that didn't know anything about it. They were looking online, or they were reading articles in magazines, and we didn't know anything about HIV at that time.
Well, 93 though, they should have known.
Well, they known some, but I don't think he had. This is Long Beach. I don't think he had patients. I mean, in the waiting room was everyone who's 80, 90 years old with all kinds of other things, right, and this 30-year-old kind of thing.
So I'm curious. So the doctor, shouldn't he be disciplined or something?
No,
that's not cool.
Never heard from him at all. And I thought I had a good rapport with him. It was like he had seen me for years.
And you couldn't report him or something?
Oh, no, I didn't even think about it. But my friends, I told them what was going on. And as I said, my gay friends were like, "Oh my God, I didn't know about the gay lifestyle. Or the medical. I didn't know about the center. I didn't know about all these things."
Right.
And they're like, "No, we're going." And from there, I have lifelong friends. My very first therapist is still a great friend, now lives here and is a therapist in town, and a personal friend. My others, I'm heavily involved in the LA Gay and Lesbian Center and others. So HIV has been part of my life since I was 32.
So when you found out you were positive, is that when you said, "Okay, I'm gay"?
Yeah, really, it was. It says, "I guess I'm gay." I had a girlfriend, a college girlfriend, slated to be engaged. All my college roommates, we were all friends in part and parcel, and I'm seeing them this next weekend for games. And it's just kind of, I look back when I lived in San Francisco during the height of all this prior, from 85, 90, when I didn't seroconvert there. And I was playing around a little bit at movie theater back in the day kind of thing, but that was a very one-sided interactions.
So did you come out to your girlfriend?
I did at that time on the beach.
How did she take it?
Not well, needless to say. Why? How could you? I don't think she even had a clue. And we were going to get married and love and all these things. And I think there was a lot.
You wrecked her plans.
I wrecked her plans. There's many other stories to that later on in life of her selection choices.
Oh, she's not. I joke about it because I had an ex-wife and I pick her with an eye.
My picker is broken. I typically pick damaged or something. Right, and then she, I swear, picked gay men.
Really?
Yeah, I'm one of probably easily three. One was very questionable something, and then two others.
So has she come out as a lesbian yet?
No, she's since married and everything else. Haven't talked to her in years. I don't know who has, but yeah, it was just
because I heard this story before, but often they will later come out.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. I have many friends like that. So yeah, so it was the coming out was just, and then I lived closeted. I lived as a closeted gay man. My gay friends knew I was gay or whatever, but I wouldn't have sex, and I wouldn't have sex with people because they wouldn't. I'd have to disclose, and they didn't want to have sex with me because I was positive. And then I became really stoic about it, and I just had this one guy went to a California men's gathering retreat, this fabulous weekend, had fun with this gentleman, and then once we got back, went out on a couple of dates, and he called me on the phone and said, "Oh, we can't date anymore. You're positive, and I don't think I can deal with that." And I'm like, "Okay, you're stoked." I just said, "Okay, fine. That's nothing. It's not about me. It's about you. I can't change who I am. So guess what?" And that was way before PrEP or any of these other things.
Yeah. So you just had to be careful back then.
You just had to be careful.
Know what you're doing.
Oh yeah,
right.
I know.
But now it's easy.
I had friends, and two ex-lovers are now both positive. Thankfully, not for me. But were very ardent. One thought he is European and was definitely not going to ever get it because of his chromosomes and something, because he read an article.
He was invincible.
And flash forward 15 years, and he is not invincible. And then another one in San Francisco that was part of that photo shoot that we were talking about separately. He wanted constantly to just have unprotected sex. And I don't know if there was the challenge of the time to just be part of this club, but it wasn't my thing.
The HIV club?
Yeah, I
Wow.
think something. There's a lot of people like that, and I just couldn't. I was just like, no, we always had to stop. Everything had to be short term, and so I became very jaded and very sexually repressed. And that still plays out today. Yeah, I mean, it still plays because your brain for so many of those years is just wired to stop before orgasm, stop before pure pleasure, stop before certain things, because that's just how my coming out.
Right.
And so there's a mental fear of still, even with all of our drugs and all these things today and being completely under meds and negative and all these things, just the completion of sexual happiness isn't really there.
Wow.
Yeah. And that's just the nature of the beast. I don't feel guilty about it. I don't feel bad about it. It's just, and I let partners know, it's not about, I said, it's about the connection and about all this other piece. It's not about the orgasm. Never has been.
Right.
When it does happen, that's even better. But hey,
we all have baggage.
Yeah.
Mine happens to be religious baggage, but that's another story.
Yeah. Thankfully, I did not grow up. I grew up with a multifaceted religious family I said I went to Baptist church with friends because that was who I could go to Sunday with. I went to Catholic things in high school and college because that's who my girlfriends were. I went to Jewish everything because I had other friends that were that. And it was always who can take care of me as a young kid when my parents were off doing other medical and other things because of my mom's illness. Yeah, I was exposed to all kinds of religions, and everybody up until literally the last few years, I thought maybe somewhere in my DNA I am Jewish. I knew it was German, Polish, something. But it all came to, it all came to finally figuring out that I'm Czech.
How are you?
Yeah. It was like all of a sudden my ancestry put out new stuff a year ago. And all of a sudden, it's all the family members that had never had any places of birth, anything like that on my father's side.
Which you thought was strange.
Yeah, it was. And because my grandparents would, till the day they died, would never talk about where they came, how they immigrated. I'm sure they came over illegally, any of those things. And so the running thing was all of a sudden in January of 23, I think Ancestry somehow, all this stuff got released and all my male cousins, female, all this, our uncles and aunts, all of a sudden had birthplaces. And 99% of them were either Polish and or that whole migratory area, but heavily Czech.
Did you connect with any of them?
No, not as yet. No
desire to, or
I just see it. I informed my father, who's 95 and still living, just to say, hey, this is
right.
You're not German. You're not whatever.
I really don't follow anything on that. I took the spit test years ago, but then I'll get an email saying, "Oh, you have 23 new matches today." It's like, what?
Yeah. And some of that is...
They're like my 10th cousin.
Right. And some are, my other friends, and my ex was very, down to the pinpoint in the weeds to find his birth mother, father, these kind of things. And it is amazing when you know that and that's what you're looking for and it comes to fruition. Right. But yeah, I don't have any perhaps desire to, it was just more, I was like, oh, now I want to go to Ukraine. Or I want to go to Prague. I want to take a vacation. I want to see my people.
Well, the interesting thing is when you and your sibling don't have the same type of DNA.
Oh, my brother and I being...
Hello.
Right, absolutely.
And your mother's your mother, but the father could be another thing.
Correct. Yeah. Absolutely. I have many friends like that.
Wow.
Yeah, and it's an eye-opening. And so it works out, all this kind of stuff can work out for the benefit and it can work out for the negative depending on what you're looking for and what your objectives are. And if you're really trying to find a needle in a haystack, you can find it, but it may not be what you want.
So as I recall, your mother died when you were what?
Yeah, my mother died when I was in 2001 or 2000. So right when I was doing AIDS LifeCycle and some other things.
So did you come out to her?
Yes, I came out to her, came out to my father, but she was the rock. She just was like, originally she said, don't tell your dad, oh my God, this will kill him or whatever or something. And she didn't really understand, but she was very supportive. But when she was gone, and in 2001, I had met my partner at the time, or had our first date literally a week before I was having a splenectomy, because I did the AIDS LifeCycle with no platelets and all these things that, you could fall and, hit your head and die. And I didn't know these things. And No, but it just when I had a splenectomy and everything went back to normal instantaneously. And it's one of those things that they just know that if they remove this filter from your body,
so that's like your spleen, right?
The spleen. It
and you can live without that.
You can live without it. And you're more susceptible to a few other things,
right?
Flus and that. And, you want to make sure that pneumonia is a big thing that if I start to have the flu, I automatically go on antibiotics because it can turn into pneumonia very quickly. But I just know that. I never had the issue. But yeah, it's one of those funny things and my father has been nothing but loving and gracious and the most fabulous best friend and father figure, and loved my exes, and we'd stay at the house and treats them like his sons. And
wow, that's very
so my mother really never understood. She just assumed that because he was in the military and a farmer and different things that he wouldn't get it.
He wouldn't understand.
And our only real conversation about it years and years ago, he goes, I don't really understand everything about it, but he goes, I know I had really close male friends. I had really close male friends who I would share everything with, and we were like family. And so if that's what you have, that's all that matters.
Wow.
And it wasn't about sex, and it wasn't about, like it is, now in the news today, like all these things. It's like, it wasn't about I'm not asking what goes on behind closed doors. And he didn't care. He goes, right. Do you love him? Does he love you? And there's your connection.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Wow.
I'm very blessed.
Yeah, and he's in the hospital right now.
Yeah, he's in the hospital right now, soon to be 95, and dealing with some compressed fracture spine stuff when you're brittle bones and an active individual. And so it's the hardest thing when we're identical, literally in look. I know what I will look like at every milestone of everything. Oh. I stated as independent living recently to help care for him and stuff, and they would come by, these older women, and say, oh, you're related, aren't you? Jokingly, because I had a beard and I had the whole thing. I looked exactly like him. And then he's just battling. He's very independent, as I am. And I've realized with all these great conversations I'm being with him, and at the worst of times, I did it with my mother and with other friends. I'm always that stoic person who, once I know that someone is passing or in the process of reaching that transition phase,
right,
it falls out of emotion. And it falls into just planning and business and structure. And I've done that with multiple friends with HIV and AIDS and others and cancers. And it's an interesting dynamic. But when you hear the stories that they've gone through, and it's that time where you get to ask them, and I ask them to write things down or say, oh, tell me more about that. To hear the story. I'm all about living a story and living what that is. And I tell people like that on the AIDS LifeCycle. I tell whatever, people that are in distress. It's, what's today's story? What is it? Tomorrow's different. This afternoon could be different. Let's prepare you right now and reframe.
And it could go either way.
And it could go either way. Yeah. Reframe your thought.
Yeah.
Yeah. I had a colleague I worked with, a volunteer some years back. I'm not sure if he's still with us, but when I was at DAP, and I was working a Saturday, and he was there for something, and he came in and he goes, I just have to say, he goes, we talked the other day and you complimented me on my outfit and said how wonderful it was to spend time with me. And he goes, I was going to go home that night and consider changing things.
Wow.
And because you opened up and just made me feel good for 30 seconds, a 30-second conversation.
Right.
He goes, it made me think, oh, maybe I don't.
There could be hope.
Oh my God, it was just so tearful. I was just looking at him like in pure shock of,
wow.
I'm not a messiah, but it's like, it can literally be that much,
right,
or that little.
Even a smile can do it.
Every smile.
Yeah.
You say hello to someone that you think is having a shitty day and whatever, or they're just whatever at the gym and whatever. I always say hello to everybody for the most part, just to acknowledge the morning, because it puts me in a better space.
Right.
And you just never know. We can't know what everybody else is doing in their path of life or what happened. People have texted me all day today about 1,000 football games, all this stuff, and none of it, they have no clue what's going on with my father and his health and stress, my own personal stress. So,
yikes.
Yeah, it is what it is, but it takes us time to actually say hello to someone, have a conversation with someone, not just assume things.
Right. So tell me about your Vikings experiences.
My biking experiences. I've been very passionate about biking for my whole life. And then I did my first AIDS LifeCycle because I thought I only had months to live. So I thought, oh, I'll train and go out on a high note in 1999 and in 2000. And then I realized, oh, I'm on meds now and I'm this and I'm still living, still doing this. It's like, and so flash forward 22 years later, I'm still heavily involved with AIDS LifeCycle. It'll be their final year this coming June 25. And after 31 years, it's just too cost prohibitive and too many people not signing up and doing stuff. Our world is different.
Logistics have to be
Logistics are crazy. And the prices of things have gone up 400%. Just as a general consumer for food and stuff, think about it for 3,000 people for an entire week traveling and all the things that includes. You got to plan for that. And then just rental spaces and things at parks and city passes and municipal licenses have all gone astronomical because they all want to make money. And it's unfortunate.
It's crazy.
But after 31 years, they're put a pause immediately right as we speak. They have so many people that have registered that have never ridden because it was always their bucket list, or they rode 20 years ago or 10 years ago and they're wanting to do it one more time as a final. So they put a pause on the registrations for riders, they're still roadies, which are the volunteers, and medical, because they just want to make sure to see where people are with fundraising. Because they know that only about 60 to 65% of the people who register actually complete their fundraising potential and all this stuff. So they know there's room. So I'm sure they have probably 2,500 is the cap. So they probably have easily maybe 3,000, 3,500 people that are registered, and they're just going to hope that who's going to get it.
They'll drop out,
but maybe not
numbers because
it's a lot of numbers.
Yeah.
You never know. And it's a big year, and you don't have to ride every mile as much anymore as you used to. And
I've always for like a section or something.
Well, you can ride there's rest stops every 20 miles of a given day. And any given day is anywhere from, the first few days are the longest of 100, 110, 90, 85, and then it goes 45, 65. There's some big days and big hills.
Can it go 7 days, you said?
You start on a Sunday and you end on a Saturday.
Okay.
Yeah. You start on June 1st, you end on June 7th, the Santa Monica Pier, I believe. And it's a magical week of so many just stories and life. And this year especially will be you're going to be with people that maybe I met in 99 that has never been here since, and others that have never done it but always wanted to, or someone whose family, parent, cousin, sister passed from HIV. You just never know. Right. And you hear the stories, and I make a point of trying to always ask people, what brings you here?
Right.
What is...
Well, you're like me. You love stories.
I love stories. I remember my little wristband. It says, live a great story. It's what is that moment? They don't always have to be pleasurable. They just have to be truthful.
Okay.
So it'll be... I'm training.
What's the most? How many miles? What's the most? What is it? 500 and something miles?
Yeah, 545 miles.
Okay,
and over 7 days. And
all I'm thinking is, I hope they have butt massagers available.
They do. They have masseur. They have. It's a full functioning city. So you sleep in tents, or many people stay in hotels. You have your food prepared for you, all that. So it's food lines and tents, and then you have physical therapy, massage therapy, they have sound bath, they have yoga, they have stretching areas, they have PT, every possible stuff. And then medical. The last 2 years, I've actually worked medical as a transport and then volunteer I brought in 4 nurses last year from my team who couldn't ride. So they joined me for the entire week to provide medical services.
Hmm.
So it's just, there's many aspects of volunteering for it, which they're still looking for to be just part of it. We call it a love bubble because it literally is, you are living it. Cell phones have made it a little different, but you are, back in the day, you didn't have that, and you're there and you're with this like camp, and you're there every day, and you just get to know people, and you see some of the same faces, and you see the exhaustion or the exhilaration or somebody who is just having that moment.
Right.
There's nothing like it. Truly. And so it'll be missed. It truly is something that you do these other walks, cancer walks, different things, all this stuff, which are still great. It's just a different...
But they don't live together for that amount of time.
No,
and you're doing something really hard.
Correct.
Was more
right. Any given day. I mean, I worked medical last year, and literally we're at mile 22. This very elite rider was being brought in, basically had fallen because he got excited, and there was a little wet street a little bit, and got excited and thought he was just all in control, and slipped, fell, broke his clavicle, broke some ribs. He was done. after all the training, after all the stuff, day one, mile 22, you're basically on your way to the hospital and on a plane to go home or car or whatever. And you just look at that and go, and then you have someone in reverse that maybe only rides 50 of the miles of the day, and then they call them sagging, they get on a bus, they go back to camp. We ask them and try to get them to say, don't just go back and social media and be whatever and suck up services. Go back and pitch in. Go back and wait at the line when everybody's coming in. Go volunteer. Go do something to be part of, because that's part of you're still involved. Doesn't matter what your involvement is, but you're still part and parcel of it.
22 miles. Wow.
Yeah.
545. Wow.
And then that's just the miles of the week. Our training miles, we're all doing, by the time we get to June, we have ridden easily 1,000 to 1,500 to 1,800 miles. Wow. I overtrained the first year I did it, and probably 2,400 miles of training.
And ridden across the country.
Yeah, just way more than you need. Wow. And so we train every weekend. We train every Saturday. So you give up part of your life. You have to carve off how to deal with family and other care streams in your work, and then be at 5:30, 6 a.m., you're 7 a.m., you're, off to get on with everybody else. And we have a support ride system that we have training ride leaders, we have sweep, we have people who are there for longer rides to ensure that you get home. No one's ever left on the road by themselves.
Now, you all set up your own tents though, right?
Yeah, during the week we set up our own tents, or a lot of people nowadays, the hotels are insane. Back in the day, it was like easier.
You mean
every
insanely
hotel.
Expensive?
Yeah, even the Lompoc, and it's the local hotel, which might be $69, $79 a night, normally is $340. It's just, mind you, everybody's coming, so they sell out for one night, and it's like that one night they get this price point. But it's just insane how much you can pay for hotels. You have camp, you set up your tent, but before you ride out in the morning, you've got to take down your tent, pack your tent, move your bag, get your bike ready, and be on the road by 6:30 or 7.
I'm guessing you have to be somewhat mechanical to do this ride.
We have bike techs, we have mechanical, we have different bike shops that are along the way to help you. But just as a rider of any kind, you just have to know how to ideally change your own tire, make sure your bike is working order, have the right kind of materials. It's not the problem, and equally, not only just time off to do these kind of things, a vacation day, especially after COVID, people have just different job kind of things. You don't have time to take off. You don't have, you've changed jobs. You have to take 5 to 7 days of vacation, and then you have to pay all the money. You have to get a flight up there, car up there. You have to get home. You have to buy outfits, different things that you would wear. Yeah,
so
it's just
how do you get your bike up there?
We transport. So they arrange, because we have so many riders from here.
So
normally we have 40 to almost even 50 riders from the valley.
Big thing.
Yeah, we go to Trek. Used to be Palm Springs Cyclery, and they have a big truck that comes in on a specific day. And they, you bring your bike over, they take it directly to the Cow Palace in San Francisco, and then you're there. And then, so when you get there on day 0, which is the Saturday before the takeoff, you go in, you unpack your bike, you check everything, pump up the tires, do all this stuff. You're all ready to go the next day. And then
now this, I don't know about this. Is a question. Is it a competition to see who does the shortest time, or you just all together, you just do it? Right?
You just all do it. There's not a competition at all. It's fundraising.
They're not timing it.
No, not at all. Yeah. It's mission-based. It's equally, if you raise the money to ride, which is $3,500, then you can ride 5 miles. You can ride 100 miles that day. You can do whatever. You can choose not to ride that day because if something has come up or whatever.
So you pay $3,500. So how much of that is expenses for them, and what do they make out of it?
It's about 23%, 19 to 23%, I think, is about the average for what it is now.
What, the expenses or the net?
The expense, yeah. So they net
expenses.
Everything above that.
Oh,
yeah.
right.
So the expense thing is always variable. It's a little more right now, I'm assuming. But it used to be, there's events in our market, I won't name, but that would be literally the expense line was more like 64%. And even the AIDS LifeCycle, when it was California AIDS LifeCycle or AIDS Ride, when I did it originally, the same organization, just now a different structure, it was probably more like 40 to 50%. There was cost, and they were making bang because it was profit. But the center wasn't making bank. The producer of the event was.
Oh,
now the center split off in 2001 and they became their own kind of nonprofit under their umbrella. They hired their own staff, and they run it internally. Yeah. So the price point shifted dramatically.
So it went to a private person's pocket before?
Many, yeah, to the
Wow.
producer and things, and just kind of the nature and how he paid people. I mean, I lost a bunch of people. I was working with a DirecTV to go work for this organization, and I was paying good, and they were paying like, oh my Lord, they're paying a lot.
Wow.
Yeah. So it was just, oh, okay. But it's just, the reality is every dollar raised immediately goes. So, I raised $100 this week. That $100 immediately goes into their coffers too. As soon as the check clears at the center in LA or San Francisco, it goes directly into services right now. They're not waiting until the end of June to start doing anything. Every single dollar makes an impact immediately, which isn't the norm for most charity events. So it's a good thing.
And the ride this year is when?
June 1 through 7.
Okay.
June 1st through 7.
Oh.
Yeah.
So you're going to be in San Fran.
Yeah, we used to go out of San Francisco itself and then head to Daly City and whatever, but they cut some of that off, which is a good thing because of the freeway kind of snare. And then now you start at Daly City at the Cow Palace, and then we have a little bit of a hill, and then you head right to Santa Cruz, and then you do each other city.
Oh.
Yeah, there's a lot
so
of...
I'm thinking dates. Now, you said you found out you were positive on Memorial Day weekend.
Yeah.
And this is at the same time. Right?
Oh, yeah. No, it's always been the first week of June, the ride. And so that was the thing.
So it's something special for you then.
Yeah, that's always been something special. It's just that my universe and the world things collide all at the same time. Last year, it's funny, one of my really close friends that I've known as a nurse in his third career and became a nurse late in life. But I convinced him he had always wanted to do Aids LifeCycle. And I said, why don't you just be a nurse with us and be in medical? So he joined my team and he did stuff and had a fabulous week. But he was also, we laugh, we're one of the only two. He was the very first person I met in my HIV support group after I went to the LA Center, and we became friends back in 93.
Wow.
And he's one of the two of us are the only two, I think, that are still with us.
Wow.
That we know of. And so
he's
it was
positive too.
Yeah. Yep. And so it was just funny. The fact that we're still both living was, wow, okay. And then I had him on the ride with me, and we shared it was really the whole world coming back around together, because this is where we started, and now we're on a complete different level of helping others from a different level.
Yeah, he's in Palm Springs.
No, he's in LA.
Oh, in LA. Okay.
So, we have a lot of transport. We have a lot of people who used to live in LA and other places who, needless to say, now live here, just so many. So they've ridden other places, but now that's why our team is so large here. Many positive people, many people that have been doing it for years.
Any regrets in your gay life? Your gay, I call it my gay career.
Yeah, just coming out. It's hard. You've heard the stories. So then do I regret coming out so late, or did I come out so late and had I come out when I was living in San Francisco and doing stuff right after college, I'd probably be deceased now because I wouldn't know any different in HIV if I would have contracted it then. So it's a kind of a different thing. I regret living a closeted life for so long and not sharing the story and not sharing with others and whatever. I've had still many great friends, college roommates, others that I've been very fortunate that with the very few exceptions, I've had no family members or others that have ever just closed me out. And college roommates and others, they have all, in some way, shape, or form, are still all heavily involved in my journey.
Yeah.
And I have different discussions with them when now they're young daughters and sons because they're not sure where they're at on spectrums. And, so the conversations are totally different, but at the same time, still very applicable. Yeah, so I really don't have regrets. I try not to, but I do think back as if I hadn't seroconverted, and my life since 93 has been all heavily involved with HIV and related causes and cancers from different things, which drives me passionately, would I still have that? And I don't know. I would think I would, because I would know somebody who was if I wasn't, and I would have come out at some point. I probably would have got married.
Your coming out was better than mine, because I lost, basically I have a brother and sister that don't talk to me, although my sister actually sent me a text, happy birthday, which is
there you go.
Years. My brother I haven't talked to in close to 25 years. And that's not on my part, it's on his part.
Yeah, no.
And my oldest friend from when I was like 13 stopped talking to me. I haven't talked to him in 25 years.
Wow.
Probably the oddest. It was funny. So I felt it was a pretty close friend. But he's a psychologist, right?
Yeah.
And I came out to him. I did like, my friends call it the scorched earth policy. I just came out to everybody. Meetings and did that. Yeah. But anyway, so I'm meeting with him. I'll call him Joe. It's not his name. So I'm meeting with Joe, and he's got a really odd look on his face. And I go, what? Can't we be friends? And to this day, 25 years later, I'm embarrassed for him. Do you know what he said to me? I'm very good looking. Get over yourself, because he really wasn't that good looking.
Well, right. But it's just, they always make it about themselves. And I'm very fortunate. It's three of my close friends, at least two of my close friends growing up, high school or grade school or whatever, got married, had kids, whatever, and then are gay. And they're gay. And we're still very close. And now their wives and I are close. I mean,
are they still married?
No. One is still married, and they just have a relationship that works for them. They each have separate kind of outside things, and when he's positive and whatever, but they have made it work. Another one,
they're like roommate type.
Yeah, something,
never,
which is fine. And then the other is just a friend that is just one of my dear close friends, and he's always here in Palm Springs, and he has a lover, and I love that. And his wife is coming down. They're all coming down in September this year. This whole little clique of gay and straight, and the husbands and the partner. And I'm hosting, I'm the gay link.
Wow.
And he was one of the very first people I told on a road trip in San Francisco to Santa Cruz to go fun for the weekend. I told him, I said, I just got this call, and by the way, I'm positive, so this may be our last vacation together.
Wow.
Because I'm going to die. And he was just in tears all the way to Santa Cruz, and we still talk about it all the time, because that was for 1993.
That was a reality then.
Yeah, that was a reality. You just never know. So many we lost, and so many. I wasn't out, so I don't know who all. There's a person who is my exact name, who I worked with in San Francisco, and it was wild. Or it was in LA, excuse me. And it was just one of those funny things. People always confuse us. He worked on one side of the business, I worked on the other, with identical names, identical spelling.
Were in the same business?
Yeah, same business and everything. And people would go, I just talked to you. No, other Brett Klein. And he had to leave LA to go home and live with family, and never came out to say what that was. I knew he was gay, but I made the general assumption that it was a health concern. So it was just I look and I see there's 2 AIDS quilts with my name on it. It's not me, because I'm still here.
He didn't make it.
I don't believe so. Yeah, and it's just funny. You just look and go, wow, you see yourself in lights, and it's not you. But it could have been.
I had a similar, I went to the Vietnam Memorial in D.C., and I think there was like 5 guys with my name on there.
Oh, wow.
It was pretty chilling.
Yeah. When you see that, it just makes you wonder,
be thankful.
And be thankful. You never know.
So at this point, I ask you, what have you learned in your life? What do you live by?
I live by transparency. I say this all the time with work and whatever. And I used to fear my job. I used to fear speaking my truth. I used to fear telling people who I was, even though I traveled with all these different people and I knew they were gay. I knew but we never talked about it because of the profession we were in and stuff. And now we do, but it's a running joke. But at the time, I was so closeted, and that's what I do regret. Now, I tell people, I don't care what they've seen a naked photo, they see whatever, I don't care. I tell my story, I tell it clearly. If this doesn't work for the profession, thankfully I work in medical. If you don't like that, not my problem. I said, I will never hide again, and I love the fact that I can just be transparent, and however it comes across, and I've been that in my writings, for my donation letters, different things, for AIDS LifeCycle, for other stuff. There is nothing that my family was astonished at my coming out story and how I seroconverted, and talking openly about going to a sex club, giving head, doing whatever. And you should share this with your 12-year-old. He needs to read what his uncle's about, or his gunkle kind of thing.
Wow.
Yeah. So I try to live very So at the end of days, whatever that will be, I can at least say, you're in my life because you let me share myself with you, and I hope you share with me fully. But I'm very much a strict cone of silence. Said, if you break that law and that rule, that is the only deciding thing that I say you give one chance.
Now, if they do what?
Oh, no, not in my life, but if I share something very personal with someone that is just about someone else or myself or a situation, and I say, and they use it for publicity or they use it for something that's to ridicule or to shame or to do something, you're cut off. I've had a few people that's like, why don't you talk to me anymore? Nope. You did this, and I'm very clear about it. You did this. You shared it after our meeting. We were professional, and you took it to a different level, and then now it's not.
Wow. How does that relate to being transparent then?
It's transparent, but it's my transparency. I never share.
Don't make it part of your story or what you're doing.
Yeah, I don't. They can always use my, I say, if I've told you my story, feel free to use my story. If that helps you in a conversation with a youth, a family member, something that helps them figure out like, oh, my friend Brett went through this and very similar. Can I connect you or can I, whatever, that's great. But when somebody shares a story that is not my story to tell, and they've heard about it or something, or we've been in a working relationship, or we share some things internally that is just to help us move the business forward, but it's not right for public. Wow. Yeah. Then I just like, nope, that transparency, that's not mine to share.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. And they always look and there's a few people that are like, nope, never going to happen.
Wow.
Because unless you change serious stripes.
Right.
You weren't drunk. It wasn't at the bar. It wasn't whatever.
Right.
It was deliberate.
Yeah. My friend, I'm glad you came in. I know you got a lot going on with your dad. So
yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure. And I'm happy I just really wanted to do it because I like the podcast. I like everything you do. So it's just fun. And I've thought about it for a very long time, and we'll do a photo shoot at some point, but I got to get in I just have to get the head and the body. It's all self. That's the piece.
Yeah.
I have no issues of any kind with it, but it's just like you have to be present. And right now, I don't think my brain is present on 9 different paths.
I always say both for photography and the podcast, when you're ready, I'm ready.
Absolutely.
Thanks again for coming in.
Hey, it's my pleasure. Thanks for having me, Wilkinson.